everybody here is called for freedom. There is a calling, a deep calling for freedom, because in the depth of what one is, there is a knowing. And that knowing is calling itself home. So in this beautiful subject or topic or angle that this offering is pointing to is the fundamental principles of the whole universe, of the movement of whole life, the whole of life, and what is before that. What gives the possibility of this life. I'm calling that the deep masculine principle. Unmanifest, pure potential, absolute, eternal. And then as this comes up into the manifestation, as it's first rising up into form, this movement that is rising up as energy and taking the form, where that comes up from, that life force, I'm calling Shakti, the feminine principle. You cannot separate movement from stillness. You cannot separate Shiva from Shakti. You cannot separate silence from the movement of these words. And this is the real beginning of where it's taking the first forms. And of course, there are many, 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 many levels. As that comes up into form, there are many, many, many levels where at a certain point where it crystallizes into egoic levels, we start to see the shadow of these deep principles, where it moves into unconscious expression. It's still coming from the same origin. And as it rises up and many, many levels, and it's taking form, and it goes into patterns and structures and self-identity and ego, and it gets more and more unconscious. You know, it's funny because I'm doing this, I'm coming up. Whereas in some ways when I'm expressing, I'm saying from high to down, you know. So it doesn't really matter, it's not to get fixed on. When it becomes unconscious, when we are not in these primordial awake to these energies moving within us, then as it comes up, there is this separate identity between male and female. And we see like man is like with the man form, and female is with the woman form. And this is like where the duality, the belief in the duality, man, woman, dark, light, consciousness, shadow, and all of this duality begins to play. And all of those levels are in all of us, all of them, from the very deepest, from the origin, all the way all of those levels. We know, we can know in our own experience. So to wake up, you know, in the world of form and the way that all different teachings come from different angles, and in some angle where it's called non-duality, there is the tendency in some teachings to speak of non-duality and to deny the play of form. So the idea of going beyond this world and this play of form is like there's a separation in that idea. And what I'm bringing in this offering, in this introduction, is the fact from my own experience that there has never been any duality anywhere. There is no duality. There is no duality between beyond and this play. There is no separation. There is no separation between masculine and feminine, and every single one of you, no matter what body you're wearing and what the genitals say, and every single one of you is a movement of absolute stillness, awareness that doesn't come and go, that doesn't age. That notices the sensations in the body right now. And those sensations are constantly changing. Those sensations are moving, transforming, changing. And you are here to see that, to know that, to meet that. So this very direct experience in this very moment of that which is seeing that, knowing that, and here to meet that, I'm calling the masculine principle within here. And these sensations, these waves of energy, how she moves. She loves to be met. She loves to be met, and when she's met, she relaxes. She lets go. And the more she relaxes, the more flow. So the dance of these energies within your moment to moment to moment experience, and how that is placed into your living of life and taking form, is very much dependent on how deep how your deep masculine is meeting your deep feminine. And if that is not awake in a being, then all that's playing out is the shadows, and the shadow of the masculine takes the form of thinking, the thinking mind, getting power from the wrong place, domination from the wrong place, enforcement, what we call on the egoic level, we know what the masculine looks like, right? And that plays out in all of us in some way, in some moment. And the same with the feminine. If that is not awake in us as the life force, as the energy, as the flow, as the juicy life force that moves into pleasure and bliss, Ananda, if that is not awake, and every form that she takes, every form like feelings that get stuck, all she longs for is to be met. All she is calling the attention for the presence to come in and meet. She's calling on the deeper masculine. And she takes the form when she's not met, she begins to take the shadow feminine, which has everything to do with controlling and manipulating in ways that are a misuse of energy. And so we know what that looks like also. It also takes the form of controlling in a different way. She creates drama. She gets lost in emotionality. And she creates a lot of drama out of that. And so when these principles are dancing as a separate, in a dualistic way, there is the experience of separation, both within and without. And there is so much to say about this, and there is so much in all those levels, and there is so much in the integration and the undoing and the unfolding and the bringing all of this into consciousness, into conscious presence and awareness. And I can say that through my own process of waking up to these energies and these levels, and through relationships, it's really the workshop, and through cleaning up the sexuality and all of the patterning within that, and really, really waking up to the fact that the first imprints that every little child gets, you know, of male and female, the first imprints that come in usually come from the first caretakers, the first impressions. If it's mummy and daddy, or if it's uncle and aunt, or whatever, but the first impressions that come in influence and greatly influence how that is conditioned into our patterning, and very much into our thinking. So what I discovered for myself at a certain point along that journey is that these two energies were not in relationship with each other. So I have a good masculine, I have a beautiful masculine here, the feminine playing all her tricks, all her trickiness, and the relationship between these two energies not being in relationship was causing a lot of reflection of that in my outer relationships. And that's where it shows up. As within, so without. So we tend to obviously attract the reciprocal and play that one out. And like mirrors, every relationship is pointing more and more and more consciousness through what doesn't work. And with the willingness to really wake up and look at all this stuff, more and more we're able to come into our true non-dualistic nature and meet as one. And this is absolutely beautiful. And so, you know, in non-dual circles, there might be the question of, well, how can there be relationship in non-duality? You know, there is no other. And that's a question that was very much present in my first stages of walking this. It was very, the questions were really, really in that point, because I woke up as absolute awareness. And then to live that into this play of the feminine and into the layers and patternings of me, of course, it had to come, because it's like the, you know, self-recognition is instant. It's an absolute instant awakening. It's just right now. That's all it ever is. It's right now. And what follows that, as that recognition has to step into every little bit of all this patterning, all this pain, all this, they're stepping into all these layers. This is an ongoing unfolding. Well, I noticed quite early that a lot of teachings were not addressing the feminine aspect. And you know what that brought? You know what that brought in the system here? Have a guess. Rage. Because when she's not met, she's raging. And we can look at that on the bigger picture, this play of life and its manifested form. When it is not met by man's deep presence, she is raging. And so she's raging and she's calling on consciousness to wake up. And we can see it like that now. We can see the bigger picture of that, of the world. She's raging. And she's calling for man's depth, for man's presence, for consciousness to evolve, to wake up. And she won't stop. And that is the same in relationship. When she is not met, she's raging and she will not stop. And the same within your own system. When you're not here to fully be present in your feelings and to fully meet that and to really, really, really be here for that, she is raging. She's in turmoil. She will turn you upside down. As in micro, macro. Dun, 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 and all the way. This is a very, very beautiful, beautiful subject, topic, area of embodiment of awakened living, enlightened living, living awake, embodying truth. This is one way to express it. I'm not saying that hold on to these words and fix them in stone. This is one way to express it. And this is a tantric way. And it is very much at home in my system. I feel the walking of this as the supreme understanding, which Tantra is a tantric expression. And I love it because it's all inclusive. And it is right from from the, you can call it the lowest to the highest, with nothing left out, all in between. And this is rich, and it is full, and it is juicy, and it is alive. It is not dead and flat and boring and resting in silence forever, which is also beautiful. But of course, within that silence comes bliss, and there she is. Yeah. Bliss is her first form. When I first started to share what we call satsang, like, I don't know, 20 odd years ago, I didn't, at that time, I didn't have these words, you know, to call it that. But always it was very, very clear to me that we start the meetings out by dropping. And I never would begin to speak or begin to open the session or anything until she was rising up through me and taking form. And I didn't have these words. I didn't have the words like, here she comes and she's taking form. I just knew through deep intelligence, there was this knowing, which is in the masculine, was that I am not the doer, and I am not the one to speak this message. The only thing I ever need is to get out of the way and wait for the movement. And later, and that movement would so often just fill the whole space with bliss. And it was later when I really brought my attention back to the tantric, because I was in that before, so-called shift of consciousness, whatever you want to call it. So when I came back to that, and then I got it, it was like, this of course is Shakti. So yeah, I love to offer all that this brings.